And welcome back to another episode of Life Changing Challengers. As always, I'm Brad Minus. I am your host, and I am super hyped up to be talking to Craig Brockie. Craig is the author of Ultimate Health. Break free from your health issues and live your best life. So we're going to say hello to Craig. Hey, Craig.
Hey, Brad, thanks for having me. I think that's really cool that you've completed several Ironmans and you teach people and train people and coach people to do these extreme things that most people just don't think they can do, and you help people get it done.
Well, thank you, but it's not about me, brother. It's about you.
All right.
So, Craig, as I ask everybody, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? What was the complement of your family, and what was it like to be Craig as a kid?
Okay, well, extremely tall for where I grew up, at least. If you put me in Holland, I'm kind of average because people are tall there. My family were entrepreneurs. They ran a jewelry store in a small town in Ontario, Canada called Fort Frances. It's right on the border with International Falls, Minnesota, which is straight north of Minneapolis. And it's all about hunting and fishing, and hockey, of course, is religion up in Canada, pretty much. So it's all about the outdoors, and there's a lot of winter up there. So you have to kind of find fun things to do in the wintertime. And I loved growing up there. It was really simple. I mean, we didn't have cell phones back then. I'm 50 years old now, so I feel blessed that I grew up without cell phones and without a lot of video games. And we just go outside and play, and you'd be playing all kinds of things all day long and riding your bike around, and you didn't have to really worry about too much other than maybe nuclear warfare because apparently Russia was ready to destroy us at any moment. But anyway, so life was good. I really enjoyed it.
You have brothers or sisters?
I have one older sister, quite a different person than me, but she's got a couple cute nieces, and I love hanging out with them and going to see my parents up in Canada. And I was just there this year, and it's always great to visit the family there.
Do you go during the summer?
I typically do.
Yeah, I would imagine that you.
Yeah. Living in Clearwater Beach, Florida now, it's regularly in the 90s here. Even in the wintertime, 60s is a cool day. So, heading up to Canada where it gets into the minus 40 and stuff is just, it's a little bit punishing.
Wait, nowadays?
If you go in like January, it can be fatal.
So do they call it high school? Or do they call it secondary school up there?
I think we call it high school.
What, did you play any sports or anything in high school?
I mean, I'm an average athlete. I found out later on that I had weak feet or fallen arches, and that's something that I teach people in my book is how to actually correct fallen arches or flat feet or weak feet or whatever. There's several names for it. But because I had my arches were collapsed in my feet, and then that makes your ankles kind of roll in. It's called pronation. And you probably know that because of jogging and running, but I had pretty moderate to severe pronation. And I just wasn't aware of it. No one really knew about it back then. But when you're trying to do ice skating and hockey or jumping or sports, I remember my knees were so bad in high school, I had to actually walk downstairs angled to one side. Like I wouldn't go down the stairs straight. I'd have to kind of go down on the side because my one knee hurt so much.
Oh, and that all came from the collapsed arches?
Yeah. I mean, once I fixed my foot arches, and it's super easy to do, it's less than $100 to get set up with these special shoe inserts that fix your arches. And the brand is called Barefoot Science. I love the product, and helps rebuild your arches within a few months, actually. And then when your arch is correct, then your ankles feel better, your knees feel better, your hips feel better. It can even relieve back and neck pain.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. That's incredible. So, all right. So you weren't an athlete. Either was I, actually. I wasn't a great athlete. Still not a great athlete. I just can go for a long time.
Awesome.
But no, I rode the bench for, I kept trying. But is there something that you did? Did you do any kind of organized sports at all?
Yeah, I mean, I played hockey, and I played competitive hockey when I was younger, but I didn't make the high school team. I just didn't have the feet problem was an issue. And then also I just didn't have the discipline to work out and train like the guys who made the team. I did play some volleyball and basketball. I'm 6'4", So I always got picked to be like the center on the team. I've played other sports, tennis, badminton, things like that. We didn't have pickleball when I was a kid, but I think that's a fun sport nowadays.
You know what? That is the next thing that I want to try. I did play tennis when I was younger, but I haven't touched a racket in years and years. But that is something that I've been watching people.
It's super fun. It's really social sport too. Actually, what I was good at was water skiing. I used to do a lot of slalom skiing, like in the summertime. I'd go out at least 3 times a week and go water skiing with my friends. It was kind of my big thing. We'd jump off bridges into the water and cliffs and stuff. It was a fun upbringing.
Oh, shit. So you had a basic nuclear family, just your parents, you and your sister.
Right. I mean, every family is dysfunctional to some extent, I think. And I'm not going to put it on my father, but he was bipolar or manic depressive, as he referred to it back then. So, I mean, every family's got their ups and downs. And, I don't think there's any perfect family. And I, by no means, was a perfect child, that's for sure. But my parents were great, and I have no complaints. I love my parents dearly, and I was really fortunate to have them as my parents.
Great. Yeah, that's what I like to hear. I'm going through, my parents are at that point where I finally have accepted that they're getting old.
Right.
And I totally get it. I grew up, I'm an only child, and all the way through high school, if I didn't have a game or something on Friday night, then it was Saturday night. Otherwise, Friday night was pizza and a movie at the movie theater with my parents. Even through high school, when I got called, oh, you're going with your parents. And I'm like, oh, that's my time with my parents, man. That and Sunday dinner was the whole time. And I wasn't giving that up for nobody.
Well, I got caught up in alcohol and drugs, and because I was doing those things and feeling kind of bad about it, when you're doing those things, it's not the right thing for you. And I think that tends to create some separation between you and your parents, because you have secrets and, you don't want to tell them what you're up to and stuff like that. So I think that can create some division, but it sounds like you were a much more ethical child than I was.
I think I was kind of forced, and it wasn't like forced. It was kind of like my dad just harped on me to be a leader. He's like, you don't follow the crowd. You always are the one that leads the crowd. And it did separate me. I was an outcast in school. I had a few friends in each one of the little groups, I had some stoner friends. I had some nerd.
Same thing.
Yeah. So interesting that you mentioned that you kind of got caught up in drugs and alcohol. Was that just a kind of a fad thing when you're hanging out with your friends, or did you legitimately have a problem?
Well, it was recreational for sure. I never became alcoholic or like an addict per se, but in 9th grade for us, that's when we started drinking. And then pretty much every weekend, at least one of the 2 nights, we were getting drunk. And, it's not a really productive thing to be doing with your time. And then when I was about 19, I think I started getting into pot and other things related to drugs. And, I guess I lost some self-respect for myself. And, when you're doing things you shouldn't be doing and they're not good for you, I think it takes you down a notch in terms of your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. And that definitely had an adverse effect on me. And then when I was in university, my health just completely fell apart. I had chronic pain, chronic anxiety. My immune system was shot. I was getting sick all the time. When I hit about 21, that's where everything kind of fell apart for me.
So when you say that you fell apart and and anxiety and stuff, did you get diagnosed with anything? Do you think it was because of the drugs? Was there another reason?
Well, what I feel, and I'm going to hold up a book. It's not my book. It's a book by Dr. William Davis. He's the best New York Times #1 best-selling author of a series called Wheat Belly. And Wheat Belly is all about how avoiding wheat can really be good for your body and your immune system, your gut health. But what he found was that handling wheat or just eliminating wheat wasn't enough for everybody. So he actually did his further research, and he wrote this next book called Super Gut, which is really awesome. What I realized was that in high school, I started getting acne and I started getting really self-conscious about it. So some people my age at the time were using a drug, which is an antibiotic called tetracycline. And I took that to handle my acne. And in the doctor's defense, he told me to not take it for longer than 6 months. And I ended up kind of urging him to take it for 18 months. Looking back at it, I think 6 months would have been more than enough to destroy my gut. But the fact that I did take it for 18 months, basically antibiotics have a really devastating effect on gut health because they not just remove the bad bacteria, but they also remove good bacteria. And then you can open the door to parasites and fungus and yeast and all kinds of things and bad bacteria overcoming your gut. And then that really challenges your immune system because your immune system is really based in your gut. And another thing about emotions too, even the American Psychological Association, if you go to the website right today, they acknowledge that 95% of the body's serotonin, which is the feel-good neurotransmitter, is actually manufactured and stored in the gut. So when you start messing up your gut health, I think is really the basis of health is your gut. And that's why I tell people to pick up a copy of Super Gut. And in my book, Ultimate Health, I really teach people how to restore their gut health and return their gut integrity. But my gut was a mess. I had something called leaky gut syndrome, and I had Candida yeast overgrowth. So those two things were just destroying my health and my immune system. And, then you get inflammation, when you have inflammation, you have pain, and like all these things are so connected. But if you can just fix your gut and then detoxify your body and then get the right nutrition in there, most conditions seem to reverse themselves pretty naturally. That's my experience. And obviously stress is a part of that too. But I mean, all these things are connected. And my anxiety went way down as soon as I started addressing my gut health also.
That's super interesting that you say that, because you know what? To this day, this is the first time that I've heard that tetracycline was an issue with your gut. And now that I think back on it, I had issues. I had major issues with my gut.
Right.
And you know what? I knew that McDonald's had clean bathrooms because I had to keep stopping.
Wow.
And you just pulled that epiphany from me.
Right.
I was on tetracycline, and then later I was on Accutane.
Okay.
I had those issues, and I never put the two together.
Yeah, well, you've probably done a lot of good things for your gut since then, because it seems like you're a really healthy guy and your diet's probably pretty good. And if you use fermented foods like yogurt, actually, Dr. Davis in his book, Super Gut, he talks about how you can take a single capsule of probiotics and you can actually make your own yogurt with it, which is really cool. Usually there's 10 to 50 billion live cultures in one little capsule. Right. And he shows you how you can turn those billions into trillions of live cultures in your own kitchen. I did that for myself and my family and some friends, and I found it so effective. I actually now have the #1 best-selling probiotic yogurt maker on Amazon, and that's my runaway success product. Like, when you get passionate about something and you believe in something, it's really easy to promote things. And that's why I love getting on these podcasts and telling people about their gut health and inspiring them to make a change. And sometimes this is as easy as taking something to kill the candida and bad bacteria and parasites. And over the course of maybe 2 to 6 weeks, you can get a really good progress on that. And then you can start taking high probiotic yogurt and you can make your own. It only has 2 species of probiotics in it. And those 2 species do not even populate your small intestine. They only populate your colon. So if you want to do anything for your small intestine, you need different probiotics. And there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different probiotic species and strains. Dr. Davis has identified which ones have very particular purposes. Like, there's ones that have immune system benefits. There's ones that have inflammation benefits. There's ones for weight loss benefits. There's ones for mood that help improve your mood. And he broke that all down in the book. We summarize that in the instruction guide that we provide with our probiotic yogurt maker. But at the same time, I encourage everyone to buy the book too, because I think the more you know, the better off you are.
That's incredible. Again, the #1 yogurt maker. Yeah, well, we're going to find that, and we're going to link that with your book in the notebook, in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll send you a free one for having me on the show, and I can set you up with like a special link too.
Oh, that'd be great. And we'll talk about that when we get towards that. But let's step back to you.
Yeah, man.
Craig Brockie. All right. So what were you studying in university?
I am a university dropout. I started with science because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And then I thought, well, I really like math and engineering, and that interests me. So I did engineering. And then I really kind of found that interesting, but I didn't really seem to fit in with my classmates. I noticed that they seemed to be really studious and on the nerdy side, and I was more of a people person and a little bit entrepreneurial and into sales and promotions and stuff. At the time, I was the president of the dormitory on campus. I was living in the dorm and I was the president, and it was a really social activity, and I really, really enjoyed that a lot. And I ended up going into business in my last year. And then at that point, a good friend of mine, the internet was just getting hot at that point. This was the end of 1995. I remember my business partner walked into my dorm room one day. He said, "Hey, Craigie, do you know what a website is?" And I said, "No, I don't." So he walked over to his room in his computer, and he had 486 computer, which is so old. And he pulled up the McDonald's website. And at the time, the McDonald's website just had a postage stamp of a picture of a restaurant up in the corner, like just a small picture, and then just text on it. That's how basic the internet was back then, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." Anyway, then he grabbed the Winnipeg Yellow Pages, because I was living in Winnipeg, Manitoba at the time. And I don't know what the Yellow Pages look like these days, but in that time, like your city's Yellow Pages were either a big book or just a massive book, like pounds of paper, right? Anyway, he was a very good salesman, and he walked in with the Yellow Pages. He put it in my lap and thud. He said, "Craigie, in 10 years, every company in this book is going to have a website. Do you want a piece of that action?" I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." So I started an internet marketing company at the end of 1995 with my friend, and it was just so fun. And then I got into search engine optimization, and that's where I made my first million. I love e-commerce, and now I sell on Amazon. And I mean, I've had plenty of failures too. I don't want to come across as a guy who hasn't failed, but internet marketing is just super cool. And I think a lot of people should probably consider doing it. And nowadays with AI and social media and stuff, there's so much opportunity.
So you don't find that it's saturated at all?
I think everything's saturated, but if a person has a passion and the willingness to learn and the willingness to work hard.
Right. If you want to do an Ironman, even a half Ironman.
Yeah.
Which is a super huge accomplishment. Don't let anybody tell you any different. A half marathon is an amazing accomplishment. 0.01% of the population has finished an Ironman. 0.1% of the population has finished a marathon. It's all determination. Most of it is mental. When I look at my email, and because I'm in the internet space, because of the podcast and because I do have a website and I have to do some internet marketing for myself. Hey, new AI website builder, new website builder, new place to, hey, this will take over all of your graphics. I get slammed with these emails of people doing email marketing, email and internet marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I ask, because it seems like there's just everybody has got something.
Okay, well, I'll give people just a tip right now. I started on Amazon in 2015. And if you wanted to start selling on Amazon today versus 2015, you could almost fall on your keyboard and make money. Nowadays, it's a very sophisticated game. And it's not to say that you cannot do it. In fact, a good friend of mine, he helps people get started on Amazon all the time. He coaches people through that. His name's Aaron Cordovez, if you want to check him out. Because he has one of the top 100 brands on Amazon. And he's also got a company where they actually acquire brands and take on investors and stuff. Super good guy, super smart. He teaches people how to get into Amazon. Great. But here's the thing, TikTok has a shop now. And a lot of people don't even know about TikTok shop. And in my opinion, TikTok shop is like what Amazon was in 2015. Right now, there's 10 million sellers on Amazon and there's 26,000 on TikTok. So the opportunity, but the thing is, a lot of people aren't buying on TikTok yet, but that's the cool thing. You can have an Amazon store, and a lot of people, when they see something on TikTok, they'll actually go and buy it on Amazon. So they work together. But the point is, if a person wanted to get really wealthy, I think they could just go on TikTok and start pitching products and build up their reputation as someone that has some integrity and some interest and some enthusiasm about products, for instance, and then get a following, promote products, maybe get your own products in the TikTok shop. I don't know. There's just so many opportunities these days. And then obviously AI is really cool. And there's just so many things. I think AI is bigger than the internet, and those who really grab onto it and run with it are gonna have no problem paying the bills and donating money and driving Porsches. And
Oh man, that sounds amazing, and that's something that maybe you and I will have to take that offline.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
but so let's get back to you. So you were having problems with anxiety and everything, and you started working on your gut.
Right.
And you said that you noticed things in about what, 6 weeks, things started to change
Yes,
for you.
things started to turn around quite quickly. And I did actually take some things specifically for anxiety. For me, there was a herb, depending on how you want to pronounce it, called kava kava.
Okay.
And that one for me actually helped really knock down anxiety as well. And nowadays, I mean, I do a lot of therapy, for lack of a better word. I mean, I'm a Scientologist, and in Scientology, you do something called auditing, which is kind of like it's a spiritual practice that, you're confronting and handling whatever trauma you have in your life or self-doubts or any kind of issues you have. You can resolve them using this auditing technique. And auditing just means to listen. So, it's not about what someone else thinks, it's about what you think. So it's just taking you through a series of questions and letting you kind of analyze your own life and coming up to your own conclusions. And I just found that so effective. So like today, I don't have any anxiety. It's like a long gone. And it wasn't until I got well into the levels of Scientology that actually occurred, because I still had some lingering anxiety. But I mean, the brunt of it got handled with just healing my gut, getting the neurotransmitters balanced because the gut health was balanced, and you're getting healthy, exercising, those release endorphins. Just doing the right things in life too. For me personally, I was making some bad decisions. I was using drugs, I was using alcohol. And when you're doing those things, for me at least, you start feeling ashamed, regret. I didn't like looking at myself in the mirror. I'd look at myself in the eyes and I wasn't proud of who I was. So, I mean, when you're in that condition, it's hard to be a happy person. And so that's why I think, auditing or some sort of counseling can be so good, is just because I think what I was doing at the time was I was trying to pretend that those things just didn't happen. Like I'd make some stupid blunder in life, and then I'd try to like shove it under the carpet and pretend like it wasn't there and pretend that it didn't happen. But, it was just haunting me all the time. And I was just filled with feelings of guilt, shame, and regret. And it wasn't until I started confronting those feelings and taking responsibility for my life and what I'd done and making things right that things really turned around for me on a whole nother level, not just biomechanical or chemical level or health body level, but a spiritual and mental level. That's when my life went into overdrive. And I'm a super happy person. I love helping whoever I can, however I can.
Interesting. So let's just run through like a step ladder
Sure.
of how, of just the steps you took. You don't have to go, let's not go like, you kind of already gave us a lot of detail.
Yeah.
But let's kind of just run through the steps. So if you were to counsel someone on, let's say you're looking at a mirror of yourself.
Sure.
Somebody that's kind of, is realized that, drugs and alcohol are plaguing their life, blah, 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 and, and maybe they've got some gut health. So I'm assuming that probably the first thing that you would probably start talking about, you would probably address the gut health, because that's probably.
Yeah, I think so. And then, for instance, if someone has addiction problems, there's a program called Narcanon, which is excellent. Yeah. Within 4 to 8 weeks, you can come out the other side, not just cleaning out your body and detoxifying, but have your own self-respect returned. It's, we're to the point where you don't even crave alcohol emotionally, never mind physically, or drugs for that matter. And then there's also even a program I mentioned in the book, and I love it. It's called truehope.com, and up in Canada it's truehope.ca. And they even specialize in helping people get off of pharmaceutical psychiatric drugs and living a happy life. The founder of that business, or that brand, True Hope, his wife actually committed suicide. She was manic depressive, or today they call that bipolar. And she just lost it and she committed suicide. And then he had 2 children who were also manic depressive or bipolar, and they were suicidal also. And he was determined not to lose his 2 children. And he just went on a mission to try and solve that problem. And he did solve the problem. he found what nutrients they needed in their body to balance things out so that their brain chemistry and whatever they needed was all right. And he's helped thousands, if not millions of people now with severe psychological problems overcome those just through natural means. And he's not only saved his 2 children, but he's saved so many other people. And it's people like that that I can't say enough good things about them because they're so brave. This guy actually got attacked by Health Canada, and that's like the FDA of the United States. So he had to go all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada to continue providing, and he had to fight to continue helping people, and he won, and that's so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. So, but it sounds like you're talking about, okay, if I was going to help somebody, then let's look at your gut health, then let's attack the emotional mental well-being,
Or
and
just
then
detoxify, maybe. Like,
or
well, how I lay it out in the book. So chapter 1's all about starting your detoxification process, and you want detoxification to be a comfortable experience because we have so many toxins in our bodies. Like, we're just surrounded by toxins. So you can't assume that you're not toxic. We've got petrochemicals everywhere. Never mind the fertilizer that they use to grow crops is made from petroleum. It's not even natural fertilizer that they put on the crops. And then they put Roundup or glyphosate, it's called, on the crops. That kills life. So we're consuming those things. That messes up your gut. Then if that's not enough, you get into processed foods and you're taking things like aspartame because you think that having Diet Coke is better than regular Coke. And aspartame totally messes up your gut bacteria. I don't know if it's as bad as tetracycline, but it's definitely damaging. Birth control pills, that messes up your gut. But there's all these toxins too. Like, I don't want to get too far into the rabbit hole, but I don't know if you looked up in the sky and you see those big lines in the sky of like plane trails, and there's some nasty shit up there that's not good for your body. So we're just surrounded by these things. Never mind the groundwater or whatever you're drinking can be toxic. If you don't have a reverse osmosis system in your house, that's probably a great place to start, is getting clean water. And then also, like, even the air we breathe in our homes, like if you get brand new carpet, it's got something called formaldehyde that it releases. Anyway, the bottom line, or you might have here in Florida, mold is a big problem, right?
yes,
Man, I had my AC system inspected a couple of years ago, and the AC guy said it was the worst he'd seen in 20 years. Yeah, we had a terrible system.
wow,
And there was so much mold in our air that we were breathing every day. But if a overweight person or someone who with a compromised immune system or something was living in this house prior to when we got this cleaned up, it would have been a disaster. So we had them actually replace all the ducts in the house, fully clean out the air handler in the ceiling, and then also put UV lights in there to help keep mold from growing in the neck, like actually coming back. But there's just so many things that I'm just trying to draw a picture of how many things that can really mess you up on a health basis. So, but the first thing is when you detox, so look at your body as like a bag of water for a moment, and all the dirt's going to settle to the bottom of the bag, right? But when you start to detoxify your body, basically it's kind of like shaking up that bag because you need to get it out. So if you're not actually eliminating those toxins through, bowel movements, urination, sweating, sweating's great. My church actually has one of the best, if not the best, sauna detox programs in the world. Yeah. We've been using it. We used it with 9/11 responders who got messed up, like firefighters and policemen who got messed up at 9/11 because all the chemicals and all kinds, like when that BP oil spill happened 10 years ago, we used it there to help people because I don't know. I don't want to get too into that, but yeah, it wasn't just an oil spill. They were putting chemical dispersants into the water to hide the oil. And those chemical dispersants were terrible for people's bodies. It was really messing people up. But we came in there and we started doing the sauna detox program and helping these people recover their health. And it's just amazing. But anyway, the bottom line is you have to get these toxins out. You can't just stir them up in your body and hope for the best, because if you actually get the toxins moving inside your body without getting them out fast enough. You can get headaches, you can get flu symptoms, and it's called a detox reaction or a healing crisis. So chapter 1 of my book just explains, okay, we need to get your bowels moving regularly and actually flushing out your colon so that, when you start detoxifying your body, it's a comfortable experience and you don't get these negative reactions. And then I go into how to detoxify all areas of your body, your liver, your kidneys, you name it, your skin, your fat. And then I get into emotional health and things people can do, how to get a good sleep. I used to have a terrible snoring problem. I show people how to remove snoring. And of course, I handle pain issues. I used to have chronic pain. So I teach people how to remove their pain naturally without taking drugs. And I just love telling people about it.
No, I think it's absolutely amazing. So just the fact that you're talking about the idea that there are things that are going on in our air that that can cause some toxicity. That's just you walking around. Not to mention that buying fruit and stuff from the grocery store was already killed some of the nutrition before you even get
antibiotics in them too. Oftentimes, like most conventional meats have antibiotics in them. They're loaded with glyphosate because those cows and chickens and stuff are eating GMO feed that's just laced with glyphosate, which is Roundup. And that stuff doesn't just dissipate. It goes up the food chain. And then we're at the top of the food chain.
Right. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Butcher Box. I love Butcher Box because it's grass-fed or natural or free range. It doesn't, they've got levels in there, but it's all non-antibiotics. It's all free and natural stuff. I've gotten sick from meat before. For me, it was better than Fresh Market. You go to Fresh Market and you get good food, but it's really expensive. Butcher Box seems to be somewhere in the middle.
Right. Cool.
So that's a good one if you're a meat eater. But I think it's amazing. I'm hearing the steps. Now I'm starting to feel like, okay, no, it's detox. Detox first, which includes your probiotics. And
if someone's constipated, here's the deal. If anybody has gas, indigestion, acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, any of these things, those are early warning signals that something's messed up with your gut. And you can't just ignore those. You can't take Tums. If you have acid reflux and you're taking Tums to deal with that, that's almost the worst thing you can do because you need an acidic stomach to actually break down your food. When you take Tums, it's neutralizing your stomach acid and it's making things worse. So then when you're eating stuff, it's not breaking down properly and it's starting to back up. So one of the best things you can do if you have acid reflux is actually use something that's acidic, like apple cider vinegar or there's a supplement called betaine HCl, which is hydrochloride. And digestive enzymes actually give your digestion some help and actually stop drinking so much fluid when you're eating, because fluid actually, like even water, when you're eating food, dilutes your stomach acid and your enzymes and makes it harder for you to digest. So if a person's got compromised digestion, there's certain steps they really should take into consideration until they heal their gut. And then once their gut's healed, like all things can improve. They can get the first chapter of my book for free at craigbrockie.com/free. And I go over the first chapter is all about the colon and making sure you don't have constipation, for instance, and cleaning out your colon. There's something called colonics or colon hydrotherapy where you go to a clinic and they basically flush you out from your rear end. And I've done that and it's not very comfortable and it's inconvenient, but it's a good therapy. But I teach people how they can get a similar effect in their own home without having to leave and actually flush water through their whole digestive tract. So you actually have clean water coming out your rear end. And it's fascinating. It actually comes from India. It's an East Indian practice that I discovered and it's super simple.
And does it still have something to do with putting water where the sun don't shine?
No, actually you drink salt water. Okay. And salt water, because like if you were stranded at sea, for instance, and you were thirsty, we all know that you can't just scoop a glass of water into the salt water and drink it. And I think a lot of people, in fact, I did at least, I assumed that, well, it's probably because it's got salt in it and that salt would be dehydrating. But that's actually not the reason. It's because that salt water has a very similar consistency to your blood, or like it's called, I don't want to get too technical on it, but when you drink salt water, it actually passes through all the way your system. You don't absorb the water, it just passes through. So there's something called a salt water flush. And basically what you do is first thing in the morning, you drink a glass of salt water, and within 30 to 60 minutes, that passes straight out your rear end. Not only that, but after about 30 minutes of taking that glass of water, you can start drinking some just regular water. And that actually, like once the gateway is open, that fresh water will just keep flushing through too. You can get like a few liters of water through your whole digestive tract in the space of like 60 to 90 minutes. It cleans out a lot of your colon. And then obviously you need the probiotics to go back in there.
That's, I don't even know what to say about that. It's just the thought of it is like, I know, but the thought of it is, I mean, it's cool, it's healthy, but the thought of it, you know, is like, okay, you either can go and pay somebody to be inconvenienced by somebody like, you know, putting it up your rear end and forcing it out, or you can do it at home by just drinking some salt water and letting it go through. As long as, and it sounds like it's very important, you put those probiotics back.
Yeah. Like, and I don't think you want to overdo it too, because you sometimes are a little bit more sensitive. Like your digestive system can be a little more sensitive. That's the other thing is in your small intestines. Okay. Like most people maybe probably picture their small intestines as like this, a pipe kind of like this, like, but actually a cross section of your small intestine looks like this. And there's these fingers coming down. They're called villi. What they do is they increase the surface area of your small intestine so that you have more surface area to absorb nutrients. But what happens is the small intestine gets coated with mucus and candida yeast and bad bacteria and things that you don't want in there. And you kind of get used to it that, hey, I don't absorb my nutrients very well. And I always seem to be hungry because you're just not getting the nutrients you need. And then you start cleaning that mucus out of there. Then you kind of expose these villi again that have been covered up all this time. And so sometimes you can get a little bit more sensitive because this stuff's been coated with mucus for years. And then, I don't know, there's things you can take, like there's an amino acid called L-glutamine. You might have heard of it because it's good for after the gym and recovering, but it also has a healing effect on the gut. And there's a lot of other things that have a really good healing effect on the gut. Aloe vera juice is another. I mentioned many of them in my chapter 1. If you just get the free chapter 1, I cover all this stuff.
Yeah, we're going to do that. Definitely. Yeah. We're definitely look at chapter 1, but it does bring me back to somebody I met quite a few years ago. I met this woman, Mary, and she had a family, and she was having some issues with her gut, and she decided to just, and another one of these, I'm hoping I've got to find her again and get her on an episode, but she went totally raw, and she put her family on the raw diet. And when she was talking to me, is that same thing. She was giving me almost the exact same thing about the villi and then the mucus and the extra candida and everything else. But when you eat raw and you eat clean raw, you're not getting the toxins. So the mucus and the candida kind of starts to dissipate.
Sure.
So depending on who you are as an American, when you get nutrition through your small intestine and it's put into the bloodstream, that mucus and candida, whatever that lining is, that it's there to protect you. It grows because it's there to protect you from the toxins. But when you don't have the toxins, your body says, okay, I don't need this anymore, which is like raw. So when the standard American diet might only give you 30% nutrition from everything that you eat, when this woman said, when she started eating raw, that, that would dissipate to a point where you can get 90 to 95% of the nutrition.
Wow.
So, and this is how she's telling me that she knew that two things that her son went through. One was her son used to love to ski. So they would go snowboarding and stuff. And his friends needed to go to the chalet or whatever they call it, the ski lodge, and go get burgers or whatever every couple hours because they were starving. He went in a 6-hour session with just an orange.
Wow, that's incredible.
And was completely satisfied.
Wow.
Right?
He's not going to be overweight, that's for sure.
Right, exactly. But when a lot of people are only getting 30% of the nutrition, they always felt hungry because they were only getting so much of the nutrition. But when you're getting down to that point where you're getting a good chunk of that nutrition, you're not hungry anymore because you're being satisfied. But the other thing is the healing agent. So same woman, same son, broke his arm skiing.
Wow.
And then that's where she talked about your body will take what it needs. It will literally come to a point where you will crave what you need. And she said that he broke his arm, got it reset, and because they were raw, he wanted almond milk. He just wanted almond milk. She said, I almost went broke because almond milk's very expensive just to make. Constantly be making almond milk for him. And when that break, we usually take, 6, 8, 10 weeks to like heal 100%. Right. In 4 weeks, he got the cast off because they kept taking an x-ray.
Wow.
And it wasn't 100%, at 4 weeks, but it was as if he was getting it off in 8 or in 10 weeks.
That's amazing. Yeah. And the other thing about raw is that when people cook food, including me, you kill the enzymes in the food. So actually heat kills the enzymes. So that's why it's really good to take digestive enzymes, especially if anybody's got any kind of nagging health issues or you have some gut problems. Taking a good quality digestive enzyme supplement with your meals and then just not drinking very much is a good play. And then I just want to mention on the satiate, like the feeling full or satiety or however you say that. There is something really popular these days and everyone has heard about it. And some people know more than others, but the diabetes medication called Ozempic, and then there's the peptide. It's what it is a peptide, and a peptide is just a small chain of amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So if you just back down a protein into the individual building blocks, you've got amino acids, you arrange those in certain ways, and you get a peptide. And these peptides have very profound effects in your body. Semaglutide, which is Ozempic, that's the peptide. But I even say in the preamble of that guide, look, you may not need to use Ozempic because it's Ozempic and semaglutide, which is the active ingredient, are what's called GLP-1 agonists. So what they do is they stimulate production of a hormone called GLP-1. I don't know what GLP-1 stands for, to be honest, but it's the thing that really suppresses hunger and causes when you do eat, it takes your stomach longer to empty. And so it makes you feel full. It makes fasting and intermittent fasting super easy. But what people struggle with is getting enough protein, and then they lose muscle mass. And so I cover all those things in my guide. But before I even start, I say, you might not even need semaglutide because, newsflash, your gut produces GLP-1. And if you can actually restore your gut health naturally, then you should have a good production of GLP-1 naturally. And if you heal your gut and you have all these villi absorbing all these nutrients, you're going to be getting nutrients from your food. And if you cut out all this processed stuff that's got all these, chemicals in them that make you crave them, like the food industry and big pharma, they're equally bad. And the food industry is trying to hook us all on chips, ice cream, crackers, crap that just messes us up. And they put very addictive things in I think one of the first things was, what the heck is that called?
MSG?
Yeah, MSG. That was one of the first ones.
Glutamate.
Yeah, that's just, designed to make things addictive. And that's just one of many. These guys are just totally trying to keep us addicted to their snack crap food.
Oh, yeah. No. I have gone through salt, sugar. You know what I mean? It just kind of happens, You're like, oh, my God, these chips are tasting so good. Oh, but now I'm thirsty. But now I want something sweet. And then it gets too sweet. So then you want something salty again. Then you're something. Before you know it, you've just killed 3,000 calories.
I used to eat a whole pint of Haagen-Dazs. Actually, it was Cherry Garcia. Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia. I could down a whole thing of that in one shot. I was like, my self-respect has left me.
So do you enjoy any of those things anymore?
I mean, sometimes.
Okay, good.
My probiotic yogurt, I make it with half and half cream, and it comes out so thick, just like the thickness of Greek yogurt. You don't even have to strain it. Right. And I put flavored stevia in it. I've got 6 flavors of stevia in my fridge. So I've got butterscotch flavor, and I happen to love butterscotch. I've got chocolate flavor. I've got black cherry flavor. I've got vanilla, a couple others. And I really particularly enjoy that. But, if I'm out somewhere and my wife and she wants to have she calls it soft serve with the ice cream cones, and she wants to do one of those, I'll have it. I don't deny myself of those things. I just don't go overboard like I used to.
Right.
Just like I used to take a big bag of chips and like demolish the whole thing and just not be able to stop myself. And that's definitely doesn't happen anymore.
That's good to hear, right? Because, we hear these people and they talk about it. Oh, just don't do it anymore. You should just stop. Blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? We're still invaded by the ads and everything else. So once in a while, it's kind of like, all right, I saw that. Yeah, let's try it. It's
Right.
just the idea of doing it in moderation. You're not doing it every night. It's once in a while, and you go from there. I'll never forget it. And you're going to keel over when you hear this. But I remember I grew up, I was a huge freaking Sylvester Stallone fan.
Okay.
I was big Rocky. You know what I mean?
Okay.
My parents still tell the story to the rest of to my family about how they took me to go see Rocky, and I was 7 years old, and I was a short 7. And by the last round of the fight, I was standing on the freaking chair in the movie theater, bouncing around, trying to, I'm with the crowd. I wasn't the only one. There were adults getting up in it as well too. But Sylvester Stallone at one point decided to try and have his own supplement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had his own supplements line. It didn't last very long. So when he was making the circuit, he's going on Tonight Show, he's going on Good Morning America and all that.
That circuit.
You should actually. People sit there and they're like, they just need to change the paradigm. If you want to have ice cream, eat it in the morning. And it made total sense. Hey, if you're going to have a freaking quart of ice cream, have it in the morning. You have the sugar, and then you're going to burn it off throughout the rest of the day. Don't have it at night when all you're going to do, then you're going to go and you're going to be 8 hours of sedent. But still, he's still talking about having a quart of ice cream.
Right. Yeah, binge eating at night, is a recipe for obesity or at least overweight. Like I've never been obese personally, but I've definitely fluctuated 55 pounds in my adult life from 195 to 240. So, 190 to 245. And it used to drive my wife nuts because I'd lose 20 pounds and then I'd gradually, gain it back over the next 6 months. And then I'd feel bad about myself and then go on some crash HCG diet or whatever it was. And I'd, be down at 500 calories a day. I didn't know what I was doing. And it's super important to actually maintain your metabolism and your muscle mass when you're dieting, because that's one of the biggest considerations or criticisms about Ozempic or semaglutide is that people eat so little that they're not getting enough protein and they're not exercising, weight training. So they lose a lot of muscle. And then when they get to the end of it, their metabolism's trashed and they have less muscle. So they're not as healthy, they're more frail, and they gain the weight back. But what I've learned is that if you keep your protein up and you're actually working out, I've actually had wins and gains in the gym where I'm actually getting stronger in the gym while I'm actually losing fat on semaglutide. And the other thing is I've got a supplement, and I am biased on this, but they're called essential amino acids. And so your body actually has 20 uses 20 amino acids. And again, amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Proteins actually make up collagen, which is in your skin and your joints. Proteins make up enzymes. They make up neurotransmitters. They make up hormones. Proteins are extremely important. And the building blocks of those proteins are called amino acids. And your body can actually produce 11 of them on its own as long as it gets the other 9 from your food source. So those 9 amino acids that your body cannot synthesize itself are called essential amino acids because your body does not make them and you need them to survive. 0 carbs. And those give your body the building blocks of protein so that when you're dieting, or even if you're trying to bulk up, they're great too, but especially when you're dieting and you don't have the appetite to get your protein, they're really, really good to take so that you don't lose your metabolism, you don't lose your muscle mass. So fortunately, I used to yo-yo all the time. And since I started implementing these tactics that I give in my free weight loss guide, I haven't had this rebound weight gain. So I feel great. I feel like I've cracked the code, and I've shared that with everybody. I mean, check in with me 2 years from now and maybe that'll be the proof, but so far so good.
Well, hopefully this podcast will still be going 2 years from now. We'll check back in with you and everything will be great. But actually, there's a couple other topics that we just brushed on that I think I might still want to have you back on for a couple of things. Cool. I do want to wrap it up
Yeah.
because I think we're getting into the point where we're starting to get into detail. And I would like whoever is really interested in this to get on out in the show notes. We're going to have the link. You can always go to craigbrockie.com, and all of the things that I'm going to make links for are actually in there.
Yeah.
So you can get it all in one spot, and then you can hear it. So it's Craig Brockie, CraigBrockie.com, craigbrockie.com. And it's Ultimate Health. Make sure that you pick that up. And his free guides are amazing too. And he's got 15% off codes. Check that out. I think it's going to be totally worthwhile. I'm going to pick it up myself. There are a couple of things that I want to look at. Those essential amino acids, definitely. There was somebody else that I met that was also, I don't think, high or middle of the Scientology, who also had a powder that was called...
Dr. Minkoff, probably.
Yeah, Dr. Minkoff.
Did you interview him?
I didn't interview him. It was about 10 years ago. He did a seminar in person at a bike shop in Clearwater.
Cool.
And I picked it up, but his tastes terrible.
Yeah. It's tough because amino acids are bitter, and to get the right blend, we feel like we've done a really good job with the formulation, but I mean, it can still be an acquired taste. You might not like the first glass.
Right.
Tablets are made the safest bet to start with.
I would throw it in with like a shake, or I would throw it in
with electrolytes too, if you like.
Yeah, and just so it would cover it, because it was horrible. But I'm hoping that yours is going to taste better. I'm sure they will.
It does taste better. The feedback we get from people is that it tastes better.
No, he was fantastic. And he's got several Ironmans on it.
Man, he's 70-something. I don't think he does full Ironmans anymore, but he's done 43 or something in his lifetime.
Yes.
He's got one of the best clinics too. If someone really wants to detoxify and they have the resources, I don't think insurance covers it typically, but if you have the financial resources, like tens of thousands of dollars to invest in your health, and you can spend several weeks in Clearwater, he's one of the best natural health or integrative medical doctors, and the equipment that he has there is just phenomenal. I actually go there. I'm a patient there, and he does very good work.
Oh, awesome. Well, Emma, maybe we'll do a little blurb about Dr. Minkoff down there at the bottom of the show notes, just because you're a patient with him.
Sure.
But yeah, fascinating guy. Totally a fascinating guy.
LifeWorks Wellness.
Yes, it's called LifeWorks.
And then his health brand is called Body Health.
Right.
They use a lot of their products, snack bars. So there's just Body Health bars. They're so good. And they have really good ingredients in them too. And they just taste amazing. So there's so many good products out there.
Yeah. But we want to taste your products. We're going to move from there to thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And remember, everybody, Ultimate Health on Amazon. There'll be a link in the show notes. If you're on the YouTube channel, share it, subscribe, hit the bell, like this video. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review and let us know how we're doing. And you know what? If it's bad, it's bad. So just leave that review too. I don't care. Leave some feedback. Tell me how I'm doing so I can get better. But other than that, thank you so much. And for the rest of you, we'll see you in the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.